Well, hello everybody. This is another segment of Daily Globe Sports Talk with the Daily Globe Sports team. And my name is Doug Walter. I'm the sports editor at the Worthington Daily Globe. And with me as usual, Caleb Nelson, sports reporter here at the Globe, and Les Knutson, sports reporter and columnist with the Globe. Our guest today is Mark Prunty, seated at my farthest away from me, and he is the head coach, in case you don't know, of the Worthington Trojans wrestling team, and we're really happy to have Mark here today. Welcome to the group, Mark.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
One thing you'll notice, folks, when we go through this today, in the past I used to hold up little cue cards saying which segment we're going to be talking about today. My wife has informed me that that's really lame and stupid, so we're not going to do that today. I always listen to my wife, so I'll just announce the segments as we proceed. The first one we're going to talk about today is high school wrestling. And ironically and fortunately for us, we have Mark Prunty here today. And I think I'll open it up to you, Mark, and if you could just tell us what's going on lately with the Worthington Trojans.
Well, we're really in the midst of our postseason right now. Matter of fact, tomorrow we'll get on the bus. For the second year in a row, we qualified for the Final Four in wrestling. And we're pretty excited about that. There have been years where, many years, where we have to practice on that day, and it's kind of an empty feeling having to practice and then get in the car and go up and watch other teams wrestle for that chance to go to the state tournament. So last year was the first time we'd experienced it in many years, and I had told the kids that last year it's a special feeling walking in there knowing you're one of those final teams that still has a shot and is still going on. And we experienced it last year for the first time, and I'm hoping that that's going to be an advantage for us as we do that again tomorrow. Yeah,
this has been a real exciting season for you. You know that you've got some good veterans who have already established themselves, and some younger kids who've taken their lumps throughout the first couple of years of their experiences, and now they're really helping the team out.
And then we really can't ask much more of them. What you said is true. We've got our veterans like Anthony Left, of course, defending state champion, Zach Kempema, Blake Schroeder, seniors. Blake just picked up his 100th win. All three of those guys I just mentioned there are going to be in the top 15 of all-time wins when all is said and done for Worthington Wrestling. And then you throw in fourth in the state, Carson Hagen. Those guys have been wrestling for a very long time, lots of experience. And then you add in several other wrestlers with experience from their younger years, like a Vince Riley is just a freshman at 52. Cody Michelson has wrestled a long time in the youth program at 45. But then you look at the rest, and then Nick Putnam at 82 also. So you can see the progression of those kids through the youth program. A lot of our other kids, though, we recruited as 7th, 8th graders. So, and that's where we're really excited in the middle weights. The Sir Ekwe and Sir Mukwe, anyone who's come and watched Worthington Wrestling, those are just two dynamite. I mean, it's hard to believe as 7th graders they were basketball players. And they're much shorter than I am. And they just have been a perfect fit for us at 6 and 13 and have jump-started our team in so many duels. And then, of course, we also have Jeffrey Camacho and King Blanchett at 32 and 38. They're sophomores, and they've really improved for us. And again, they're still relatively, when you talk mat time, the number of matches they've actually experienced and wrestled in their life, they're still relatively new to the sport. And when they step on the mat, and I mean, they just have really grown this year. We've been really pleased with their progress. And then, of course, Cody Michelson and Vince Riley in the middle, they have done a great job for us also. And that was kind of a key for this season. We knew that group of sophomores was going to have to really step forward to have a chance, and they've done that.
Well, it's great to see Worthington Trojans wrestling, making waves in southwest Minnesota. So my congratulations, and I'm sure all of us feel the same way. The job you're doing and your coaching staff. Caleb, I know that you've covered a lot of wrestling this year. What are your thoughts on Trojans and maybe some of the other teams that we've seen this year?
I think the Trojans have definitely just put together a lot of really impressive duels. I think of, maybe a St. James duel, close at the beginning and just really pull ahead to win. And there's been so many duels like that this year where just feels like Worthington just, finds a way to just pull themselves ahead, and so that's been neat to see, to see a lot of kids, Mark and I have talked not only about winning, but, winning big, getting those extra points for the team, and then maybe on the losing side, kind of doing what we call damage control, to maybe not give up, the big points like the pins and the majors, and the tech falls. So, yeah, it's been a real fun season watching them. I get to watch Adrian tonight. They'll be real strong against another very strong team in Wyndham Mountain Lake. So, for a chance to move on. So that'll be cool. And Jackson County Central hosts an opening round match tonight too. So, big time in wrestling.
It seems like a really good year for wrestling in our corner of the state. It's great to see. Let's talk a little bit about some other things that are going on. We've been covering things all week here at the Daily Globe, other sports as well. Les and Caleb, what have you been covering and what are your interests right now?
Well, just to go back to the wrestling one more time, it looks like you've got a good blend of experience there, and then you're pretty deep.
Yep, we do have some depth in some areas too, which is, it's come in handy this year.
Yeah, that's good to see that coming on. It's been quite a tradition if you go way back with Worthington Wrestling, and it sounds like this year, like you say, there's a lot of pretty good teams in the area. So that's kind of coming down. The team wrestling is going on now, and the individuals. When's that start now?
Next weekend. So next Friday and Saturday. That's when the individual tournaments will happen.
And then at the state tournament, they do it separate. Like a few years ago, it was always kind of in one deal where one kid might wrestle 7 or 8 times in a couple of days.
They changed it a couple years ago. It's still one tournament, but they do the team in one day on Thursday.
Okay.
So the team champion is crowned Thursday night, and then Friday, Saturday is the individual tournament. So you could still have kids involved with both tournaments, still racking up the same number of matches, but it's a little bit easier on them, I would say, for the kids. And it's also more fan-friendly, where before you could have a match Thursday, Friday, Saturday, which made it tough for fans to get up there.
Yeah.
So that's probably the biggest plus for fans to be able to go up and see the whole tournament.
It's a great time at the state wrestling tournament. I know I used to cover it years and years ago, every year. It was a madhouse at that time, but always a lot of fun.
It's a great sport.
Yeah.
I should also mention, I guess before we move on, Sibley Oshedon is hosting a district meet this Saturday. So for those in Iowa, starts, I believe, at noon on Saturday, and winners go to state. So.
Now, Les, you want to talk a little bit about boys basketball seedings?
Well, yeah, that took place just yesterday, and I think we didn't get that in maybe, but I think Section 3 AA seeded also.
Oh.
And of course, Fairmont is a rated team in the state, and I think they got number 1, and St. James went 2. And I was kind of thinking that Wyndham and JCC would end up again at 3 and 6, but Wyndham got a 7, so Wyndham's going to take on St. James. And I'm not sure who got number 6 there that JCC will be hosting, but that also took place. But what I wanted to point out was kind of an interesting in Class A. Section 3 over here has just been dominant year after year, and we got all kinds of state championships here recently with Ellsworth and then Southwest Christian. But kind of interesting this year, Southwest United, which is Heron Lake Okabena, they went over east, and a couple years ago that was kind of an advantage because it was an easier section than one thought. But this year, the Wildcats got seeded number 8 in Section 2, and they beat Ellsworth, who was seeded number 2 in Section 3 on their home court, and they beat Hillsbeaver Creek, who seeded number 3 on Hills's court. So they have wins over 2 and 3 in Section 3, but yet they're a number 8 seed over Section 2. So right now, and it happens from year to year, things can change, and so I think there's a lot of good boys basketball teams evidently to the east of us this year, which of course back in the old days would have been District 5, which, you and I are probably the only ones that kind of remember that.
A long time ago, yeah.
But yeah, so that's interesting, and of course the Wildcats, they don't get to play in Super Saturday because Section 2 doesn't have that. In fact, if they win their pigtail game, then they're going to play at Mountain Lake, and over here in Section 3, you don't have anybody getting to play on their home court because everything's going to be on a neutral floor. And Caleb here, he's looking forward to seeing his first ever
Never seen
Super
it.
Saturday
Should be
on
fun.
February 22nd.
In Worthington, 4 games.
Right.
Yeah.
And the boys are a week ahead of the girls, which is unusual.
Yeah.
In that way, maybe only a couple times, way back in the early 80s, it was like that a couple times. But
I think it's the same day as wrestling, though. I think it's the same day as individual tournament in Laverne. So we'll see how all the assignments work out. But
Yeah.
I'm hoping to get to see a little bit of it.
It'd be nice to split ourselves into
Yep.
2 and 3 extra people, but
Well,
let's talk a little briefly here about what else you've been watching this week.
Well, this winter I've seen more hockey than I've seen since my son Lucas was a hockey player from 1st grade through 6th grade, so I went to a lot of youth hockey games, but I hadn't seen that many high school hockey games, but this year someone keeps assigning me some hockey games, so I've seen both, and it's been fun. Both girls and boys. Worthington has played pretty well. The Worthington girls, I think, showed a lot of improvement, and the boys have been competitive in just about every game, so that's winding down too, and some of us will be kind of glad to see winter come to an end, but not necessarily to see the winter sports come to an end. But that happens.
I know Laverne's girls play in a section final. I believe tonight up in Redwood Valley they play New Ulm, a team that they've had some trouble with in history. You know, I think they've gotten beat 5 or 6 times in a row in the section final against New Ulm. So that'll be a big one, a big giant to take down for them. And then we were talking about basketball, and Fairmont, I think, went up and beat Marshall the other night, boys.
Well, they did.
Yeah, so that Mitch Finston kid for Fairmont is pretty good. I remember when Jackson County Central played them, the coach said that we did well with him. We held him to only 38 points,
Oh,
but they shut down the rest of the team.
you know where Mitch Fingston's dad played?
I don't know.
Worthington High School,
There you go.
back in the late 70s.
That's pretty cool.
Kevin Fingston, he was a good player too.
Well, we should probably say something about gymnastics. Worthington Trojans gymnastics team. I've been watching. Caleb and I both have seen a few of their events. It's been a great year for them, a year for the history books, and we wish them all the success in the rest of the way. I saw Southwest Christian's boys basketball team play Worthington recently. A lot of people have been talking about Leighton Sampson, their big 6'5" center. I saw him for the first time last Saturday, and boy, he's the real deal. I mean, he can do everything. He can dribble, he can pass, he obviously can score, he can hit from outside. He has about the best moves I've seen of an inside guy when he gets the ball down low. He's just a man among boys. He's not just tall, he's very wide, he's strong. A lot of fun to watch him. Saw the Jackson County Central boys play Worthington also recently. Very interesting game. Worthington went on Jackson's home floor and just clobbered them earlier this year, but Jackson returned the favor. This time around it became a close game at the end, but Jackson came out like gangbusters early. They really wanted to win that game. They had revenge on their mind. They were ready to play, and Worthington wasn't. I was real impressed with Darnell Taylor Breck. Everybody's heard so much about John Harmoning. Great player Harmoning is, and a great kid. But I was really impressed with Taylor Breck and the way he slashed in there and scored so many points. So that was fun. Anything else anybody want to add about anything?
I think you got to talk about Minnesota West a little bit. You know, the men and women have had great seasons on the basketball court. I know the wrestlers are going to the district tournament down in Spencer on Sunday. A couple of good kids, Ben Goodwin and Jared Nickman, a couple of kids that stick out in my mind as good wrestlers for them. But basketball teams lost to Anoka Ramsey last night. You know, a really good program up in the city, and but they're still putting together a really good season. So.
Well, we got to move this along a little bit here. To finish with, I want to talk about the Sochi Olympics just briefly, and maybe talk to Mark a little bit. They've been trying to get rid of wrestling in the Olympics. How could they possibly even think about getting rid of wrestling, of all things, in an Olympiad for the summer?
Yeah, you know, it is one of the oldest sport. That's what we try to boast about. And, you know, I think the good thing that happened was the wrestling community really came together, rallied behind it, and I believe we were the first to be put back into the summer games. So that was great. I think there maybe were some changes that needed to be made. I think in watching some of the Olympic-style wrestling, some of the rule changes that they had made prior to this didn't make it necessarily real exciting. So I think the changes they've made will be in a good way. I remember they, way back in, I think it was when it was Olympic gold medalists, they split into the coverage to show the gold medal match. And it was where we had beaten a Russian wrestler who had never lost before, back in, it would have been maybe early 90s. And the match was a 0-0 referee's decision, or 1-0 match. And I came away thinking it was really exciting, but anybody else who didn't know wrestling is thinking, wow, it was a 1-0 match.
Yeah.
Other than the tension, where was the action? So I think the changes that way to force action to make it more exciting is going to help the sport. You've seen the college athletics go in that direction also, with basically increasing the boundaries, where as long as a foot is in, the guy could be almost on the wood floor. If his shoulders are down and the opponent's foot is in, he's pinned. So changes like that are good, and maybe it took the Olympics threatening to get rid of it to make some changes, and hopefully in the long run it's a good thing. It's still in the Olympics, and I don't think the battle's over yet. They got to keep fighting for it.
Well, they got to keep the wrestling in the Olympics. Going back to Sochi, you know, they've got something I've heard this week called ski slope style, where you jump on and slide on rails with a full set of skis. Now, who thought of that?
You're not going to see me do that.
It doesn't make sense to me. You know, I think they still have rhythmic gymnastics in summer games, don't they? I've never understood that. Maybe it's just me, but you know, they got rid of baseball. They got rid of women's fast pitch softball. I think only because we dominated for so long. They're tired of us winning all the time. Anyway, thankfully they didn't get rid of wrestling. I don't know how many of you are watching the Sochi Olympics. It's kind of interesting to me, although I haven't really got into it too much. I'm already tired of seeing Vladimir Putin all the time, as they keep cutting to him with the camera. Anybody have another final thought before we end?
Well, we got a Russia-USA hockey game coming up soon.
Yeah.
That's going to be big. Oh yeah, everybody's going to want to watch that.
It's on Saturday sometime, I think. Is it?
I think it's Saturday.
So the National Hockey League, they're on break right now. That's the
Yeah.
deal.
Yeah. Some of them are, you know, playing in the Olympics.
Yeah.
It's
And that's
go to amateurs.
changed, yeah.
Gracie, isn't he playing?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some of the Wild players, yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay.
Okay. I think maybe I'm going to cut it off here.
Well, you know, this one I said on Samson, you're right on him. Especially the bigger the game gets, kind of the better he gets. In the state tournament last year, he was very impressive, and you know they had other guys that go with him, and
Yeah.
they do again. Big game Saturday night up in Dawson, Southwest Christian and Dawson
Mhm.
Boyd, the two #1 seeds. They conceivably could play at Marshall again in the section championship game in a couple weeks, so we'll see.
I believe that's a doubleheader actually, girls and boys
Oh, yeah.
play, and yeah. So and then I guess the only thing, other thing I'd say about them is they really do have a lot of guys around him. You know, the Five Fleet kid can hit threes really well. Clayton Houston, a very good point guard. So
Right.
Yeah.
good all around team.
Yep. Okay, well, thank you everybody for listening in today. We want to thank our guest again, Mark Prunty, for coming today. We really appreciate it, Mark, and good luck the rest of the season.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
So, on behalf of all of us, good night.